Minds on Muscle community, welcome to the Fitness Pro Mentors interview series. If you want to hear some amazing interviews from amazing fitness professionals all over the world, please join our Fitness Pro Mentors private Facebook group. But today, let's make it rain. Fitness Pro Mentors, welcome to another episode of the live interview series with exercise titans like my good friend and saxophone player, Mr. Jacques Henry Newell Taylor. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing just great, thanks. It's great to be here.
Jacques, I'm really excited to have you. And so if you're someone that's been following the Minds on Muscle podcast, you'll see at this point that there was an interview that Glenn and I did with Jacques. But Jacques is someone like you who is very much in the science world, but also has taken all of this amazing information and turned it into a business. And it's not only just a business, but a business that's helping him have a life and helping people. And so, Jacques, I'm really excited to talk more about the nitty-gritty of how you've taken your studies as a neuroscience student and exercise scientist and really grown it into a way that you're helping people in a professional setting. I'm really excited about it.
Wow. Well, it's I think it's like a constantly evolving process too. When I think back to the first time trying to apply science to make a difference in the way people train, it was close to 15. I think it's 20 years ago, something like that. Yeah. Yeah. And we were thinking about how, think about this. If you are an athlete or if you are a casual exerciser, one of the things that you're constantly told to do is to warm up, right? Warm up, get your body ready to do what you're going to do. And my friend and I were thinking we wanted a challenge. We wanted to figure out something because we were kind of, coming up with a program for someone to lose weight. You can do that. That's pretty straightforward. Someone coming up with a training strategy to have somebody, increase the bench press or run a little bit faster or whatever. Okay, you could do that. But like, how would you get somebody to go from being asleep or eating food or doing some sort of manual labor to have to jump into a vehicle, drive really fast, get there, and then start lifting stuff immediately really heavy. And you can't always have proper lifting technique, right? So we're talking about firefighters, right? And emergency medical responders. And we thought, now that would be a cool thing to how do we figure out how to apply this science stuff to really help these men and women who don't have the luxury of warming up all the time, number one. And number two, their careers are not 8 years and then they retire with millions, right? Their careers are like 20, 25 years, 30 years. And they've got to be able to physically produce every single year along the way, So if they're working out like a football player, good luck with that, right? Football players don't last that long. They just don't. They can't. So I think that was the first time that I really started thinking about how to come up with a different business idea, a different way of applying the science to people who really need it.
Was that called Preparation for Chaos?
That's it. Preparation for Chaos. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember when I first heard of you, I checked out your website, I'm sure as everyone does, because you have quite a notoriety as an educator, which really has preceded you and is very powerful. But I remember seeing that Preparation for Chaos, and I'm like, such an interesting thing. This guy's talking about his explorations in neuroscience as a student to all these people, but he's got this thing called Preparation for Chaos. And that's a real interesting way to like meld this into your business. So, I mean, how did that go and how did that influence the growth of your business?
It in some ways it couldn't have gone any better. We were way ahead of ourselves, and you'll see what I mean in a moment. So, what my friend and I, this guy named Trevor St. John, what we what we what we realized was that these firefighters needed to work out in ways that are different than your average person, right? They have to learn how to control inertia, right? They have to learn how to manage their bodies in awkward positions. They have to learn how to hold positions for long periods of time, right? So strategically learn how to, I'm going to say the very dirty word, compensate. Oh, I said it. They must learn how to do that, right? Um, and we realized that you had all these people, some were 6'4", some were 5'10". We're like, wait a minute, so we can't give them a cookie cutter workout. So we have to work with each one of these individuals to design something for them, to teach them how to strategically then do things on their own. And we managed to do that, but that's a pretty expensive program, right? That's a very expensive program. And so what we realized is that even when it went really well and the departments were like, this is phenomenal. We go into this is no exaggeration. We went in, we talked with the fire department of Los Angeles County. I think they had over 2,000 firefighters. And they're like, this is awesome. Let's do it. How are you guys going to do this? We're like, it's the two of us. And there was no way we were going to be able to hire up enough people to do it. We couldn't deliver it. So what's cool about now is we could figure that out, right? We have different ways of recording certain things that guys need to learn. And then there are ways of doing virtual things. We just kind of sit down for a few minutes as opposed to having to drive all over a city to different fire stations. There's a way that could be done now. But at the time, it was a boom because of the success with these departments that we could work with, the smaller ones. But we couldn't take it to the next level because we were limited by our personnel. We're just like, who's going to help us? Well, they live in, Toronto, and they live in St. Pete, and right, scattered all over the country, all over the world. So now we could do it. So watch for that. It's coming back.
That's amazing. Well, I remember when we did, and for anyone who's listening to this today, go back and listen to our interview, the other episode with Glenn, where we interview you, because honestly, we talk a lot about some of the amazing processes you're doing with helping people with their mind and overcoming challenges and obstacles using exercise. Now, in that kind of vein, I mean, the whole reason why I started this little businessy side thing was because it wasn't really the initiative to want to do it. It was that you and I and many other people have been teaching biomechanic-y, science-y things to people and really trying to help people think outside of their comfort zone, challenge their thought process. And one could argue that going down that road it's a complicated road. Like there's a lot of left turns and right turns that you can make to try to get to a place where you're doing something that's helping people, but doesn't feel like you're doing anything too crazy. They get a great experience that helps them. But I find that, I don't know if you found this, that there's so many people who are paralyzed by focusing on just the science and lose sight of how they can have it help people and turn into a model where they stay in the career for, a decade or two. Did you ever have any challenges like that yourself?
Yes, I think that was the first challenge. That was the first challenge. The there was a point in my early guest fitness career where I was about to walk away from it. I was like, this is ridiculous. I don't care about someone just losing weight. These continuing education courses that I'm going to are a joke. They're pathetic. Like I can't even. It's irritating because it's not based on scientific method or curiosity. And I really was about to quit the industry, and someone said, "You got to go hear this guy. You got to go hear this guy. But listen, before I tell you who this guy is, just promise me when you go, you are not going to say a word. You're not going to answer any question. You're not going to ask any questions. You're not going to you're just going to shut up and you're just going to listen and you're going to love it." So they're like, "Yeah, you got to go hear this guy, Tom Purvis." I was like, "Okay, but listen, if I have a question, I'm going to ask him. And if he goes off the handle, I'll walk out." Like what? Come on, But I went and that changed my life. But here's the problem. Here's the problem though. Now I had this amazing sciencey stuff that I wanted to apply. And I was just like, how do my clients care about this? Well, I think they should care about this, but how do I talk about it in a way that they go, oh yeah, I kind of care about what you know, right? They may not need to know the word moment arm or force angle or resistance profile or shear, but I tell you, when you figure out this is what my client wants, and these are some of the obstacles that are in their way, and this is how the information that I have will help them solve that stuff and get from here to there. But that was my first obstacle, was going, wait a minute, I'm back in the personal trainer pool. I'm not like the others. Can I change my name? No, you're a personal trainer. I desperately wanted to do that for a long time. I spent at least 15 years wanting to change my name. Right. And so that was the big challenge, is how do you, within a profession, that doesn't always have the greatest reputation. How do you speak to people in a way that makes them go, wait a minute, you, my friend, are different. What you're talking about is different. You're listening to me and what I need, and you just talked about something that sounds like that could help me. And then you deliver an experience where they go, yeah, that's different because my knee didn't hurt. That's awesome.
Now, I love that. And thank you so much for sharing that. But that brings up a lateral question that of all the people I know, you have a level of access to some knowledge that in the nervous system world that most of the people I'm familiar with don't. And I was wondering that through that exploration and how much you know, everything down to the smallest little molecule and little interactions, did you struggle at any point with how you could take these grandiose concepts that take you 8 hours in a day to bring it down to a client where they wanted to care in 2 minutes to make a change in an exercise choice?
Yes, I did. Yeah, yeah, I did struggle with that. I struggled with that in on multiple levels, um, and I would say that uh, that was a point where I was um, enjoying my career in some ways the least because I felt like I had all this stuff and I didn't know how to talk about it in a way that would allow people to care about it because I was thinking about it in the wrong way. What I needed to learn how to do, and I stumbled across this, and then a colleague of ours, this guy Greg Mack, helped me understand what I was doing. I stumbled across this process of learning how to ask people what they're looking for and what they need, and truly listening for that. And then actually being able to say, hey, wait a minute, I do really have something that can help you. Or to be able to say, you know what? You just asked them for very specific things, and I don't have those tools. So let me see if I can find somebody who does. Yeah, go see this person. Right. And as soon as I was able to start to do that, it became fun again. And guess what I was able to do too? There's some people that I was currently working with where I was just like, you know what? You know why this is always such like a weird hour for us every week? Because I don't have the skills that you need. And I feel so good because I know somebody who could help you. I really do. I was able to have those conversations. And so then instead of dreading that hour at 10 o'clock every Wednesday, right? I got somebody in that slot that really needed and should be there. And I had a radical transformation in who was on my schedule, or in terms of some of the people who are on my schedule going, Jacques, oh my God, I'm so glad you said that to me because, yeah, here's what I want. I never thought about it that way. And then now your relationship with that client goes to another level and they become a client for life.
I love that. I love it. You know,
Yeah.
I remember the clear as day, the first personal training client I had, his name was John Giordano. He was a snowplow guy. I remember clear, so clear. And I went on the gym floor, and for that hour, I monologued RTS that I had known at that point. Like, for sure, every detail, every mechanical thing, talking about every joint force that I could recite. And not great at that time. I was, 19 years old. But I
Yeah.
monologued. So I'm like, I love this. This guy is going to love it. Didn't
Yeah.
come back. So as far as that goes, I mean, one thing that I've seen, and I'd love to know if you had a similar experience. Greg Mack, I mean, for me, I mean, when I was teaching RTS, there was a point where I was teaching it and I had a great experience and I had a great following as an instructor, but I didn't have a great business because I was so focused on that top end science and I didn't know exactly like you said, how to transfer it to a way that related to my practice. It was really Greg Mack that helped me frame conversations and sales strategies and communication strategies to find out more from the person to figure out, do they care about moment arms or do they just care about doing the thing? How did that revelation for you after Mac influence your business long term?
What that helped me see long term is that until I had met Mac, I felt like I was, I would have like, I would say like a 80% chance of like, acquiring the client and it being the right fit. It was like an 80% chance, I'd say. Let's say 75%. Yeah, it wasn't quite 80%. But in Los Angeles, I got a lot of people to choose from. There's no, you know, um, but what I thought was so cool about, my interaction with Mac is he helped me to see what I was doing. And so when I hit the bullseye, this is why you hit the bullseye, right? This is why you did it. And it's like, oh, that's why I did it. So then now you actually get to say, my business is now more efficient. And not only that, my greatest fear as a person who is trying to develop a business is going, am I it? Can I actually get anybody to do what I do? And for the longest time, I was just like, crap, I can't, because I don't even know how to tell people how I do what I do. I mean, I can give them all the sciencey stuff, but I don't. I mean, I take a pinch of that, and I take a dash of that, and I take a pinch of this, and on humid days, I stir it twice instead of 4 times. I don't even know that I'm doing it.
Right.
But once you stop and slow down, you go, no, there really is a method to this. No, there's totally a method. This is totally teachable. So I think that has been really important. Is that I now see that these things are not. They're not so complicated that they can't be explained to other people to either be on a team with me or to even educate lay people about these ideas, right? This is not brain surgery, as a matter of fact, right? It really is not.
You know,
Yeah.
it reminds me of both of our late friend, Peter, who
Yeah.
was the master at storytelling.
Yeah.
He could tell a story about the most grotesque, awful thing and have it be
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But the thing I saw him do with clients over and over again is, I mean, he was this top level educator, but when he'd have a client in front of them, someone that was paying top dollar in Toronto for his hour of time, he would
Mm.
almost never tell them the physics or the deep nitty gritty anatomy. He would ask them questions and then tell a story about some imaginative things, like when you're in Syracuse and you see a toilet with the water off, don't go turn the water on because you're going to get covered in pee water.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Totally.
Like, and
That's
then
good.
clients would go, "Oh my gosh, yeah, don't mess with things I don't understand, or I'll get pee
Yeah.
water on me." Right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
in that vein, and this leads kind of into like the creativity conversation I want to talk about, which is the
Mm.
reason why I put Sax Master on the conversation. It's not just being cheeky. I want to go
Yeah.
there, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
how you're fantastic at communicating, very clear, articulate voice, and you're great at being creative, which we're going there. How has
Mm.
storytelling influenced your ability to take this grandiose extended
Oh,
nervous system and deliver it to clients?
it's big. It's big. It is it's everything. It's not just storytelling, but it is also it's also truly listening to the experience of this person and creating a scenario based on what they've shared with you. So it's very real to them, right? It's very real to them. And what I think is really cool about this, Brandon, is that um, if we're patient, each one of us will develop our way of communicating with our clients, right? Like to use that example with Peter. Peter had that gift of having the funny, cool story. I don't have that. And then there are other people in our lives who are I don't know, they're so sweet that people are just like, oh, okay, they're just gonna. I don't have that, and every time I tried to be like somebody else, it was weird, it was awkward. But when you find your voice and what do you do really well? Well, I do this and I put that back out there. I think that's it's exciting. Um, that's where creativity comes in, um, and that's also where I think this quality of curiosity becomes like an invaluable resource. Right? Just being curious.
If you had a student ask you, "Hey Jacques, how do I get better at communicating these ideas to my clients?" What kind of things do you think of to recommend?
Um, yeah, truly learning to ask questions
Yeah.
and being curious about people's experience, right? And when you have that curiosity, um, that's where you have an opportunity to either reinforce what they know or give them some additional information that might shift their perception of things, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I think that's the biggest thing is learning how to ask genuine questions, things that you're genuinely curious about.
You
It
know
can
what?
be something as simple as when somebody says, "I want to tone up." What do you mean by that? Not, oh, well, toning up is that's kind of a stupid thing. That's really not a thing. Do you know that? It's like, no, no. Okay. What do you mean by toning up? What's that going to look like? What's that going to feel like? Right. You've
Yeah.
toned up. What are you going to be able to do? You know?
I love that. And it's like when people do like a set on an exercise, they perform something and they go, Jacques, where am I supposed to feel that? Right. I know a
Oh,
lot of trainers that go, you're supposed to feel it in your pectoralis major clavicular division. But like I tell all the guys here, like, no, 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 no. Don't answer that. Say, hey, that's a great question. Where are you feeling it? Are you noticing a difference from one side to the other? Because then, no matter what, even if they're feeling it where you want them to, now you have a dialogue of where they're interpreting the experience, they're pulling it in. They have to see, hey, do I like this or not? And then you can go
yes.
forward from there. And I love that.
Yes, 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 absolutely. All of my clients, they know it. They. It's funny. At first, they don't quite they can't quite figure out what's going on. But I always ask them. So, where's the greatest stimulation? Like where did you feel that the most in your body? And I'm just like, right here. I'm like, you're answering that as if there's a right answer to this. They're like, well, is that what you're looking for? No, 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 no. I want to know about your experience. That's all I want to know. What's your experience with this thing? Then they're like, oh, okay, cool, cool. Yeah, well, I feel it here. And actually, I felt something kind of going up right there. Okay. And then we get to have conversations like, so when you felt that thing up there, did that concern you? "Mm, no, not really. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to feel it there. I was just like, well, if you felt it there, right? We're going to say you were supposed to feel it there. What we have to decide is if you stopped because of what you felt right there, and we were trying to do something for this over here, now we got to make some adjustments, right?
Completely.
So, yeah, man, I love I love hearing that other people are have that same kind of approach to communicating with clients. That's super cool.
In this, yeah, I think it makes a huge difference, and it takes a lot of
Hmm.
work. But if you practice talking to people, you get better at it, and it gets smoother. And the questions you ask become so much more about them. And honestly, I think that for a lot of trainers, I mean, the old thing that Tom used to say, right? Why when you go to LA, there are all these different actors who are trainers, and they're trying to make it as an actor. And the reason why they're charging $200 an hour as an actor, and they don't know anything about exercise, is because they're great communicators. And it's true that if you can make a connection with someone, eye contact, good language, pacing, mirroring, all that stuff, really cool. You don't need to know anything about exercise. Some people will just assume you do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's very true. It's very true. Yeah, it's very, very true. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
speaking of LA, one thing that I have heard through the grapevine of you is that you worked some pretty cool cats at one time or another in LA. And I was wondering, I know working with some celebrities is kind of a crazy experience. I was just wondering if you could speak to that experience, and was it what you expected if you were thinking of the younger version of you saying, I want to work with celebrities?
Oh, that's a great question. So I never had a desire to work with celebrities, and it was never something I truly wanted to do. Um, but by the time, let's see, is this right? Yeah, by the time I started working with celebrities, I had enough of an idea um, of my role as a professional that if they wanted something that I didn't do, I was just like, you got the wrong guy. I didn't care who they were. Didn't care who they were because um, I don't know what gave me that confidence, but I'd heard enough stories about how you can just be mistreated by folks who think that because of their wealth or celebrity, um, that they can kind of call the shots. But the way I looked at it was, you've hired me to be a professional for my professional expertise. Here's what we're going to do. And if they're like, no, 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 I want you to come over here. You're going to stretch this. And then we're going to go over here and you're going to make me do 50 push-ups. And it's like, no, no, no. That's okay. You're right. You need another person in here. But the celebrities that I worked with, that actually worked with, it was awesome. They were interesting people. They were complicated people. Sometimes they were very wary because typically people are constantly asking them for stuff. Um, I had some weird experiences for sure. um, uh, but
Is
yeah,
there
it
any
was
top
fantastic.
layer stuff that you could? I saw you laugh there, and that looked very. Is there any like something you could dig into? No people, but story that made that laugh happen.
Uh, 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 let's put it this way. I will tell the story, and if you feel like you can leave it in, you can leave it in. If you want to like leave it on the cutting room floor, you can. So this one client had me come to their compound in the Hollywood Hills, and went to the compound. And I think no, I'd never met this client before, and I'm usually don't like to go to people's places because you go to their place and you're on their territory, right? So sure enough, I go over there, and I had a table that I was going to use for this client to lay upon, and I said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to get it set up," and she said, "Okay, great." And she came to the table. She had on a white T-shirt, some gray sweatpants, and it was just a white T-shirt and nothing under said white T-shirt. And then she laid down and she was like looking at me right in my eyes. She was waiting for my eyes to drop, and I was just like, "Nope, I got you, right in your eyes, right back at you. My eyes are right here with you." So yeah, weird stuff like that. And uh, yeah, that was the one that made me chuckle because you would know that who this person is, and it was pretty wild.
I have a story I will relate to you in the same way because I think we can
Yeah,
keep this. This is a good.
yeah,
There was a professional athlete that I worked with, a gentleman, and I was really excited to work with him. He's like at that time one of the first athletes that offered to work, like wanted to work with me. And
mm-hmm.
he goes into the office, and at the time we had these doors, and we'd close the door. I went over and I went to the washroom. I came back out. He was completely in his underwear on the table, like open setting, and I'm like,
Yeah,
you can keep your clothes on. It's cool. He's like, no, 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 no. I want you to see everything while it's happening. It's gonna make me know that you could see what's going on. I'm like, okay, all right, man. And so the whole session, I'm doing my work and I'm looking at the ground the whole time because it was just so. Anyway,
yeah,
anyway,
yeah. I
came one
got one
time that was
more.
good.
I got one more like that too. Then, but this was not a celebrity. But so at this point, I was working out of my condo in an area of Los Angeles called Los Feliz. So this client comes in, tells me about stuff that's happening with her hip, and I go, "Okay, great." I need you to run to the bathroom real quick. So I go to the bathroom. I come back out. She's literally lying on my table naked, and I was just like, "Wait a minute, you don't have to take your clothes off." She was like, "No, it's fine. I don't care." I was just like, "No, no, no, no. You should probably put some clothes on." Well, it turned out she's a dancer, and I mean like not a, a dancer. But yeah, that was wild. Put your clothes
That's
back on. We don't do that here. Yeah.
yeah, it's tough. I mean, and that's the world that we enter in when we're working in these one-on-one relationships. And I know that
Yes.
those kind of problems happen, and it's important to make sure that we're setting the expectations. We're doing everything we can to keep it as sharp as possible. Because I
Yeah.
hate saying it, you hear horror stories of trainers making mistakes, and I don't know to what end, and getting in trouble. So,
Right. Right. Right.
crazy, crazy stuff.
Right.
So, hey,
Yep.
listen, saxophone,
Yes.
creativity.
Yes.
One of the reasons why I'm super excited to talk to you is because you're also a musician and you're an artist.
Yeah.
And one thing I talked to everyone when I've been interviewed, they ask me about playing the drums. And if playing the drums and learning all those different things help my
Yes.
mind and my creativity apply into this world. And the more I've been asked that, the more I think it does. You as a
Yes.
musician and an artist and all the things that you've done, how does that play into your world? And do you think, as a trainer, developing creative intelligence is an important skill?
I do. I do think it's an important skill, but there's another there are a couple things that happen as a musician. The type of music I play, there's a large improvisational component to it, right? You learn something called the head or the melody of the song or your part, and then you have this part where you get to improvise, right? Now you don't play just whatever you want. There's a structure where you can improvise, but the idea is not to memorize some stuff before you get in there, but to just have some loose ideas and let it flow, right? And I love this. But early in my career, I had a perfectionist streak, right? So when I would go into the studio, it was serious business. When I had a gig, it was serious business, right? If I was going to improvise, I wanted to crush it every time. And when I didn't, I was so hard on myself. I was brutal, dude, brutal. And the guys in the band would have to be like, dude, that was fine. Leave it alone. I was like, no, I got to do another. And that actually cut off my creativity. At some point, I just ate myself up. And when I realized I was doing the same thing in my training, trying to be so perfect for my clients, I was sucking the fun out of it for me, potentially for them, right? And instead of having a scenario where you go, wait a minute, here's the melody of this workout that we're trying to do. Here's a place where we need to be able to improvise and be flexible. And you know what? Sometimes you're going to hit an off note, and that's okay because it matters how you surround that note, right? When you hit that note that's a little off, if you do the right thing, like Miles Davis, it becomes really cool. It becomes really cool, right? So I learned that through music. And then when I was able to relax and go, man, you've got the chops. You can do this. You won't always feel like you did on Monday, right? It's okay. I was able to translate that into my work with my clients of I shouldn't expect my client who did the bench press on Monday of this week to do the bench press exactly the same or more next Monday. It's just not the way it goes, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, there's no doubt that the creativity that is encouraged by the arts, whether it's music or art, I think can be really a really profound way of keeping we science heads a little bit loose, right? Because truly science is about little leaps, right? You can't, you can't always know what comes next, right? As a matter of fact, there are entire branches of science where they're going, we're going to intentionally do this because we do not know what the outcome is going to be. So talk about creativity, talk about, courage. That's it right there.
It's the process. Like I say this to all of my like, I'm much like you. Like I did studio musician stuff for a while. I played in a lot of rock gigs because I was fast and I could keep time in those faster tempos, and it was great. And then I got into the drum solo world, and it was the same thing. That I was very much like, I have to get it perfect. I gotta nail it. I gotta nail it. Every note on the grid, perfect. And
Yeah.
I started hating it. And I started hating it, and it was because I was so focused on perfection that, like you
Yeah.
said, when I made a mistake, I stopped everything and threw my drumsticks and freaked out. But one thing I learned from playing jazz, and I'm sure you've heard this, but no one knows you made a mistake until you call it out.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you can make that mistake, like you said with Miles Davis, and have that inflection become a part of the character of the thing you just did, it's
Yeah.
beautiful. And that's the same thing with exercise, that no matter what, like, the reps don't need to be perfect. There's got to be specific rules we got to follow. But if one looks a little different than the other, but we know it's within the ranges the individual can tolerate, how
That's right.
amazing is that? It's the
That's right.
process. And you'll
That's
never
right.
master music, which is why I love talking to people about it, just like science.
Now listen. Now. I know you might have thought it was kind of geeky, but that's why I call myself a student of these things. Because
Gotcha. Okay.
sometimes when people say I am a thisist, that means
Yeah.
I've arrived and I've got it. I've quote mastered it. And I'm like, man, I'm not ready. I don't know. Maybe I'm being stupid. Maybe I should say that I'm a whatever. But I I the idea of always having that student mind, that curiosity, that thing of I know I read that a year ago, but is that still true? Have we looked at it a little bit more closely, and so maybe it's a little bit more nuanced now, you know? So yeah, man,
Constantly being a student. I love it.
that's it. Yeah,
So, sir,
buddy.
I got one more big question I'd love to ask you because you've done another novel thing. You've done a lot of cool things, man. You've done a lot of cool things. But one of the most courageous things I would say is that you took your business from LA
Mm,
and you moved
mm,
to a totally different place,
mm.
and then you rebuilt your business.
Yes.
Could you speak to that and like that process and how that was?
Yeah. I think. Um, wow. Yeah. There were a couple things that drove the process. The biggest one is family. Kind of going. I want to have a family. Where do I want to raise my family? Um, and it wasn't Los Angeles. I loved Los Angeles. It was phenomenal. I had a great time, great business. But there was something else that I wanted. I wanted to be able to um, um, have a community where I could affect the dynamic of that community. Whereas in Los Angeles, it's just like, man, you are just one piece of grain on the beach. piece of sand on the beach, piece of grain, one piece of sand on the beach, and you're not going to make a difference. It's just not going to make a difference. Um, at least I didn't feel like I could. And in terms of what I wanted for my family, I thought that I had a better chance of getting that out here where I am. And so the process of rebuilding my business was looking at going, okay, what am I re-examining my core values and re-examining what I want to deliver to the community where I'm working. Now, here in Maine, we have a real substance abuse disorder problem. Got a real problem. It's massive, right? You'd never think that on this beautiful island where I live. Real big problem. We have issues with people who have seasonal affective disorder. Real problem. Gets dark and cold around here. Y'all know about that up in Canada, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We've got a very busy season, and then there's a lot of time off, and so that leads to some feelings of depression or lethargy or lack of focus. Don't know what to do with themselves. There are all these things that I was like, wait a minute, this community really does need to figure out, how do you mindfully move your body? How do you do this in ways that are not abusive, where you just go, okay, I got to get out there, I got to run my miles, right? Or do nothing at all. So I got really fired up about the opportunity to help this community, not only shift what's happening with their bodies, but also shift what's happening in their minds, right? So everything from what's happening physically to, this is not a very diverse place up here, right? I think there's not a lot of Black folks up here, not a lot of brown folks up here. So there's a lot of transformation, both physically and mentally, but it's happening. It's happening.
Amazing. I had to say, it's a courageous thing to build a practice and then just jump and go build it all over again. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, you know what it's like though, too, like when you have a loving partner, someone who's got your back and you know it. And in the community up here, like when you have a solid plan, you put together a plan and you're willing to share it with people who won't just say, that's great, Jacques, but people really look at it and go, I don't know, dude. I don't, what does this mean? I don't understand what you're saying here. Right. And that having that kind of feedback also allows you to refine your messaging, right, and figure out what's working and what's really not.
Now, actually, I want to ask you something on that now, and then I got one thing I want to close off with that'll make you laugh for sure. On that exact messaging note, you move into a whole new place, and with the level of studentry that you have, what marketing messaging has worked well for you? Do people see you, see your business, and go, that's where I need to go?
Oh, dude. Two things. One is this idea of transform your body, evolve your mind, right? They're like, okay, what that possibly mean? So that's a little bit of I think I get it, but let me ask them about it. That's one thing. And the other idea is this idea that we're designing exercise from the nervous system's point of view, right? Like we're trying to design something that you actually like, not that you like because it's over, right?
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people I've met up here where they're just sort of like, Jacques, I can't tell you how many times I've had a trainer or instructor tell me, I know you hate it right now, but you'll be so glad when it's over. As if that's a good thing. So this idea of helping people realize, wait a minute, no, this whole process can actually be something that you enjoy. It can actually be something that you enjoy. It doesn't mean that you won't be challenged, but we will prepare you in such a way that you'll actually be going, this challenge is this exertion that I'm feeling. I'm curious about what my body can do. This is cool. As opposed to, oh my God, this hurts. This sucks. Right?
I love it.
So yeah, it's a string of things that I think have resonated with people around here.
Now, bringing people joy. Do you remember the first interaction you and I had through email?
I don't. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
I don't.
10 years ago, I emailed you a day and a half before the time I saw you speak at the MAT internship in Toronto. And I sent you an email. I was super nervous because I
Yeah.
heard lots of great things about you. You know how Peter was with really elevating people, and so I'm like,
Yeah.
this guy's gonna
Yeah.
come in. He's gonna be 6'8". He's gonna blast nervous science all over my face. It's gonna be crazy. And so I emailed you like a day and a half, and then the Thursday night before the day you were gonna speak, you responded in the book behind you. You emailed me and you said, I want you to buy Presynaptic Inhibition and Neural Control. Read it by tomorrow, and you'll be prepared for our conversation. So,
Did I really?
yeah, yeah. So I bought the book that night, and obviously it didn't show up. And then the next day you present it, and I got the book. I got it over there. It is the toughest read of all the books I've got.
Wow, wow, wow. I wonder what was on my little brain.
I bet you had to do with Mr. Prankster Peter for sure. I'm sure.
Probably, probably. That's pretty funny. That totally sounds like a Peter thing. That book's not cheap either, you know.
Oh, ABE Books. I got on Abe Books for like $15, all beat up. I was super lucky.
Oh yeah, you were.
Yeah.
That book is like over 100, like 200 bucks, something like that. If you
Ooh, I'm gonna
buy
resell it.
Yeah,
Resell it because it's the
yeah,
most
yeah.
terrifying book I got.
That's pretty funny, man. That's pretty funny.
Well, Jacques, I wanted to say, like, to finish up today, thank you so
Mm,
much for having this conversation. There's a lot of
mm,
people in the group that'll be watching this that are on this journey of trying to build their business so they can
mhm,
keep doing all the amazing science that they love. And I think
mm,
hearing your experiences in all these different ways is a truly groundbreaking experience because people look at you in a specific academic way, which is
mm,
amazing. But I think seeing that you have similar struggles, you're a person,
mm,
a business
mm.
person going through the same grind and having to discover the same revelations to help your business succeed really is relatable and great. And you did a great job, man. Thank you.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure, and I'm happy to be a resource. Really, I do my best to try to email folks back within a few days. Sometimes we get a little bit behind, but I'm happy to uh, talk shop. And I think it's really important that if you are have a bent towards measurement and quantification and sciencey stuff, that you figure out ways to make it valuable to people, right? Um, Listen to what they want and then figure out how to go, oh, yeah, I got something for you. I really do. Yeah.
I love it. Jacques, thank you
Yeah.
so much. I'm so honored to have 2 hours of your time in the last week and a half. So thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me anytime.
Awesome. Everyone, we'll talk to you soon. Have a great one.